If you're a tech reviewer, you're always chasing the next big thing, right? The newest, the fastest, the latest and greatest. So what on earth would make someone like that take a huge leap backward? Well, this is that story. And really, it all comes down to one simple but really important question. What do you do when the newest software actually gets in the way of getting things done? So let's dive into this journey, from the cutting-edge frustrations of Windows 11 all the way back to a trusted old favorite. So after dealing with just a ton of frustration, our reviewer decided he'd had enough. The cool new features Windows 11 was promising, they got totally buried under this constant avalanche of problems. It forced him to retreat back to the familiar, stable ground of Windows 10. Okay, so it is super important to remember. This is just one person's story. With operating systems, your mileage can seriously vary. I mean, think about it. A new OS has to work with a gazillion different hardware combinations. So you might have a totally smooth ride, while someone else, like a reviewer here, gets stuck with these just bizarre random errors that have no obvious fix. Look, this wasn't like one big thing that broke everything. It was more like a death by 1,000 cuts, All these little glitches just started piling up until they became this huge wave of disruption. Let's break down exactly what was going wrong. All right, first up, we have a really weird one. Out of the blue, while just watching YouTube or browsing the web, Google Chrome would just completely freeze for about 10 seconds. The mouse, the keyboard, nothing. Just frozen. But here's the crazy part. Every other app on the computer worked perfectly fine. And then, poof, just like that, Chrome would spring back to life like nothing ever happened. Bizarre. Okay, next up. A problem that hit right where it hurts for a lot of people: gaming. Specifically, mobile gaming on PC. The Android emulators he used all the time became so laggy they were basically unusable. It was like everything was happening in slow motion, just underwater. And what made it even more annoying was that his friends weren't having this problem. For him, it was a total mess. And as if those two big headaches weren't enough, there was this constant storm of smaller, nagging bugs. Little things that by themselves you might just ignore. But when they're all happening all the time, together, they create this experience that's just full of friction. It just wears you down, grinding your patience into dust. There's always a final straw, right? The one thing that just pushes you over the edge. And for this story, it was this really mysterious hardware error that brought a high-end workflow to a screeching halt. So picture this. He's testing out an eGPU setup. That's where you hook up a big, powerful desktop graphics card to a laptop or a smaller PC. He plugs in his beefy NVIDIA RTX 3070. But Windows 11, it saw the card, knew what it was, but just wouldn't let it work. It just threw up an error. And that's where we get this thing called Code 43. Basically, it means your computer knows the device is there, but it's saying, nope, something's wrong here, I'm shutting you down. So that powerful, expensive graphics card, it was basically just a really expensive brick at that point. Thing is, he'd run into this error before. He even had this go-to script that always fixed it. But this time, on Windows 11, nothing. Absolutely nothing worked. He spent hours digging through online forums, trying every fix he could find from other eGPU users. Still nothing. The NVIDIA card was dead in the water. So, after hitting that brick wall, and with all those other bugs just buzzing in the background, he decided, you know what? I'm done fighting this. It's time to go back to something that actually works. So the decision was made: wipe the drive completely and do a fresh install of Windows 10. Not just any version, but a specific tried and true one. No more messing around, no more waiting for some magic update to fix it all. Just a clean break. And the results? Wow, it was like night and day. That whole unstable, buggy mess on Windows 11, gone. Replaced with just rock-solid stability on Windows 10. Those laggy emulators were suddenly super smooth. And that eGPU, that big Code 43 problem, it showed up once, he ran his old script, and boom, fixed, instantly. The whole system just worked. Just like that, every single one of those problems, the Chrome freezes, the emulator lag, that awful Code 43, they all just disappeared. The PC was finally a reliable tool again. But of course, there's always a trade-off, isn't there?
Yeah, going back in time isn't free. He had to give up some of those shiny new features that Windows 11 brought to the table, and that led to a pretty clear trade-off between having the newest stuff and just having something that works.
So what did he lose? Well, he really missed the tabs in File Explorer. I mean, it seems small, but it makes a huge difference for organization. And those fancy window snapping layouts that make it so easy to arrange your windows? Also gone. And what about gaming? Well, on paper, yeah, there was a tiny little dip in peak performance, but honestly, it was so small you'd barely even notice it in a real game.
And that right there is the whole point of this story. Who cares about a tiny number in a benchmark when your day-to-day experience is a million times better? A system that just works flawlessly all the time, that turned out to be way more valuable than a couple of extra frames per second or some slick new features. So, this whole story kind of leaves us with a big question for ourselves, doesn't it? In this constant race for the next new thing, what's more important to you? Being on the absolute cutting edge, even if it means dealing with some bugs, or having something that's just predictable and stable and works every single time. What's your priority?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end and see you in the next video.